Namaste, everyone. Welcome to my next installment of Vinyasa flow practices. I'm joined by my sidekick here. He'll be running in and out throughout the practice, I'm sure. Before we start, make sure that you have your props. So a strap and 2 blocks or 2 big books that are about the same thickness. And we'll get started. We'll see if Chinook cooperates. Right, Cookie Man? All right. So let's sit nice and tall, eyes closed, getting here. Nice, comfortable cross-leg position. Take a couple big inhales and exhaling through an open mouth. And we'll start with some pranayama or breath work. So we'll take the 3-part breath today. So start by inhaling and just filling up your belly, that lower abdomen area, as big as you can. Just concentrate on that on the inhale. And then when it's full, just slowly exhaling through the nose, closed lips. Do that a couple times. Remembering to check in, nice straight back, shoulders relaxed, chin parallel with the floor. And then we'll move on to the second part, where we'll fill up the belly first with air, and then the chest area, the rib cage. So go ahead, fill up the belly on the inhale, and then moving up the body, fill up that rib cage till you can't hold anymore. Maybe pause just for a beat, and then exhaling, starting with the ribs, down through the belly. Do that a few times. And finally, we'll add that third part. So you inhale, you fill up the belly, you fill up the rib cage, and then all the way up to the collarbones. So that top part of the chest, just as best as you can. Maybe the shoulders will slightly raise a little bit, but try not to consciously move them. Just enough to get a little bit of extra air up to those collarbones. And then on the exhale, following down the body, so through the upper part, down through the rib cage, and then out finally through the belly. And keep repeating this pattern just with your own capabilities of how many, the count of how long the breath is. So for some of you, it might be a count of 10, for some of you it might be a count of 5, just whatever level you're at. And if you'd like, on the exhale, and even on the inhale too, you can do Ujjayi Pranayama, or our victorious breath of raking the breath across the back of the throat while you're doing this 3-part breathing pattern. So it makes that Darth Vader ocean sound. And this just gets us centered, focused inward, so that we can practice the asana portion, the physical portion. Let's do one more round. And whenever it's complete for you, just letting go, returning to a regular breath, but maybe just a little bit more aware. Noticing how you feel today. Where did the breath, the energy get stuck? Just noticing. And then let's bring our hands to heart center. Bumping the thumbs up against the heart so you can maybe even feel that gentle heartbeat in your hands. And let's officially open our practice with one single Om. You can just listen or join me, taking a great inhale. Start introducing some movement. So bringing hands down to the knees and opening up those eyes. Try to do it slowly. I kind of open them suddenly, a little bright. So let's just start with the neck. Just kind of loosening things up. Bring the chin to chest, the right ear over to the right shoulder, and then going back, left ear to left shoulder, coming forward. Just following the rhythm of your own breath. Inhaling back, exhaling forward. One more time in this direction, and then we'll pause with chin to chest, and then going the opposite way. One more time. And then pausing once again, chin to chest, and then coming up, hair out of my face. Getting centered once again, nice and tall. Let's take just a simple seated twist. So you can either tent the hands around the right leg and maybe fold a little bit, or you could bring the left hand around that right knee, right hand behind the back, and twist a little bit deeper. Just depends upon how you're feeling. If you want to twist this much yet this early in the practice, or you want to get a little bit warmer, you could just take that gentle twist and fold. Couple breaths here. When it's complete for you, coming through center, and then opposite side. If you're taking that twist all the way around, stay nice and tall. Roll that left shoulder back. Just warming up. And then coming back to center. Let's come on to hands and knees. And we'll continue warming up with some cat-cows. So making sure that hands are directly below shoulders, knees below the hips. And when you're ready, taking a great inhale, letting the belly sink down low, looking up to the ceiling. And on the exhale, rounding the back, looking through those legs. Once again, following the rhythm of your own breath. Inhaling and exhaling with the movements. You can always do that Ujjayi breath throughout the practice. And let's come to a neutral position, and we'll go into our downward facing dog, tucking toes, hips up towards the ceiling. And we're still warming up, so you can pedal out the feet, bending the knees. You could keep both knees bent. Maybe the heels are lifted off the mat. But do keep those hips going towards the sky and spread those fingers wide, pressing on the mat. Gaze is to the thighs or maybe up to the belly. You can always exhale through open mouth to get rid of any unwanted tension. One more breath here. And we'll look to the top of the mat, stepping forward, coming up to a flat back, and folding in. Our first forward fold, probably a little tight. You could keep the knees bent. Maybe staying up a little bit further, you could grab one of those blocks. Or both. Put them by the feet to stay up. One more breath here. And then rising up, reaching the hands up overhead, touching and through the heart. Getting here, Tadasana. So, standing nice and tall, shoulders back and relaxed. Getting ready for Surya Namaskara A. Reaching up overhead, folding forward, looking up to a flat back, bringing hands down, stepping back either into a high plank and lowering down through Chaturanga Dandasana, or the high plank and then knees, chest, and chin, and coming through your cobra. If you did Chaturanga Dandasana, you're in your upward facing dog, and then through your downward facing dog. 3 breaths here. Looking to the top of the mat, jumping or stepping forward. Flat back, folding in. Reaching up. We'll go through that again. Urdhva Hastasana, Uttanasana, Ardha Uttanasana, Chaturanga Dandasana, jumping or stepping back. Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, Adho Mukha Svanasana. And breathe. Looking up, jumping or stepping forward. Coming up to a flat back and folding in. Reaching up through the heart. Tadasana. We'll go through Surya Namaskara B next. So maybe bringing the feet a little bit closer together so we can start in our chair pose. Utkatasana. Weight is in the heels. Arms are nice and straight, like you're taking a seat. And then through our standing position, maybe a little back bend, and folding forward. Looking up to a flat back, jumping or stepping back, lowering down, upward facing dog, downward facing dog. From here, lifting the right leg up to the sky, stepping forward, warrior one. Nice straight arms. Down we go. High plank to low, upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Left leg raises up, stepping forward, warrior one. Sinking in. We get there and we go. Down through chaturanga, upward facing dog, and downward facing dog. 3 breaths here. Looking to the top of the mat, jumping or stepping forward, and coming up to a flat back, folding in. Coming up through our chair pose, Utkatasana, sitting back, and Tadasana. Breathing here. We'll go through our moon salute next, just getting nice and warm. So you might want to spread those feet a little bit further apart for this one. Hooking thumbs, arching back, coming down into our malasana, our yogic squat, maybe the heels lift. Bring that right foot back. Our low lunge, Asana, hooking thumbs, arching back. Look through those hands. Bringing the hands down to frame the foot, left leg goes back. Our camel pose, hooking thumbs, arching back. Hands come down alongside the legs. Wisdom pose. Bringing the hands forward, child's pose. Now we're going to come through like a little inchworm into our cobra, slithering through. And then back to our wisdom pose. Stepping up with the right foot. Asana, hooking thumbs. Arching back. Framing the foot. Stepping up. Knees are bent. Hooking thumbs. Straighten the legs. Folding forward. Rehook thumbs in front. Coming on up, arching back. We'll go right down for the other side. Malasana. Heels maybe come up. Stepping back with the left leg on Asana, hooking thumbs, arching back. Framing the front foot. Bringing that leg back. Ustrasana, camel pose, hooking thumbs, arching back. Child's pose, or wisdom pose, excuse me. Then child's pose, reaching hands forward. Coming into our cobra, slithering through. Back to wisdom pose. Stepping up with the left foot for Asana. Hooking thumbs, arching back. Framing the foot. Stepping up. Knees are bent. Hook thumbs behind. Fold forward as best you can. I know my hamstrings are not warm. Hooking thumbs in front. arching back through the heart. And Tadasana. All right. I'm going to start flowing through some standing poses now. So, from the top of your mat, let's just step back with the, let's step back with the left foot so that I'm facing you. Warrior two. So, warrior two. Arms are parallel with the ground. Nice bend in that front leg. Gaze is over the middle finger. Should be able to see that big toe if you glance down. And just be here, breathing. You're a strong warrior. Maybe sinking down with each breath, opening up. Let's exalt this warrior. So flip that palm. So now the palm is facing the ceiling, and then bringing the left hand down the back leg and swooping that right hand over. Keeping that bend in that front knee. And try not to put too much pressure on that back leg. Using the core. One more breath. Back through warrior two. Straightening the front leg, five-pointed posture. Reaching forward, going into our triangle, Trikonasana. So, you may need to come up a little bit. Can't go all the way down to that foot right away. Maybe just holding on to the shin. Maybe you want to take a block. So you can grab your block. That way you can really open up and feel the stretch through the left side body. Or maybe you're really warm, you can come down a little bit lower. But like you're being squeezed between two panes of glass. One more breath. Rising up through 5 points. And we'll exalt this way, so with two straight legs. Reaching back. Breathing. One more breath. Windmilling down. Take a vinyasa. High plank to low. Upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. And breathe. You can always take child's pose if you need to take a break. And looking to the top of the mat, jumping or stepping forward, folding in, reaching up through the heart. Do the other side. So I'm going to step back with my right leg. If you started on the opposite side, you know what you did. Warrior two. Find that perfect stance. You can always heel toe back a little bit if you need to make more space, or you went back too far. Come up a little bit. You're never married to the spot you picked. Always making subtle adjustments. Relax those shoulders. And breathe. When you're ready, exalting that warrior, flipping the palm, and coming on back. Creep those fingers down the back leg, but lightly. Keep a bend in that front leg. Breathe. One more breath. Coming back through warrior two, straightening that front leg. Konasana, triangle pose. Reaching forward, cutting those hips back, and then coming over that front leg. Shoulder stacked over shoulder. Fingertips pointing up towards the ceiling. Making subtle adjustments. If you went too far, coming up. If you can sink down as you breathe, you do that too. I keep making sure I have a little micro bend in that knee. So you don't want to hyperextend. One more deep, deep breath. Give it all you've got. And then when you are ready, coming on up through our five-pointed posture, making any adjustments before we exalt, flipping the palm, reaching back, opening up. And then windmilling down, taking a vinyasa. High plank to low, upward to downward. And breathe. Should be getting warm now. When you are ready, reaching that right leg up to the sky. Stepping on forward for our high lunge. So coming up, sinking in, reaching those arms nice and high, straight towards the ceiling. Looking up, maybe arching back just the tiniest bit. Building strength in the lower part of the body. One more breath. And with control, bringing the knee down, try to land a little above the actual knee joint to protect it. And we'll take a low lunge. So, seems like it should be pretty similar, but you get very different experiences. This is much more of a stretch than strength. So maybe you want to stay low. Maybe you want to bring the hands up to the knee. Or if you want to work on opening up that heart, a little bit more of a back bend, reaching the arms up high and looking up. Keep relaxing those shoulders. And when it's complete for you, coming down if you were up. And we'll take a little twist and a little quad stretch. So bringing the left hand on the inside of that right foot, you might need a block there to bring the earth up to you. And we'll take a little twist here. And like I said, we'll also get a stretch at the same time, bending that left knee and reaching the right hand back for that left foot. Little twist. Try to keep those hips even to get both the twist and you'll feel more of a stretch in that quad. Breathing. Rolling that shoulder back. Looking to the back of the mat. Sinking in with each exhale. One more breath. And releasing the bind, coming back around. We'll come up into our lunge just for a minute, our high lunge, to prepare for warrior three. So once you get there, you can get ready to launch off of that back foot into warrior three. So coming forward, you can either keep those arms straight ahead like this, or take any other hand gesture. Maybe prayer is a little bit better for you. Try to keep that left hip sinking down. Everything nice and parallel. You can bring the hands back. One more breath. We're going to come into our revolved half moon. So we bring the left hand down. Now we flex the foot and the right hand floats up to the ceiling, looking up if you can. If you needed a block, you could always come out of the pose, grab your block, and put it down under that left hand. Take your time. If you'd like here, you could grab your foot for another bind, a little quad stretch once again. Same rules apply as before. Roll that left shoulder back and breathe. And when it's complete for you, back through that revolved half moon, and then we're going to open it all up into a regular half moon. So windmill that right hand down. Now you bring that whole left hip up, stacking it on top of the right. Might need that block. Can always come out of the pose to grab it. Woohoo! It's a balance. And here we are in our half moon. Foot is flexed. And breathing. You can look to the earth for stability. I was trying to look up, but it's a tough transition. It's a challenge. It's fun to play. You have the mat to catch you if you fall. One more breath. Then windmilling that hand down. You can flow through a vinyasa, or maybe just go into downward facing dog or child's pose. Take the time to breathe and notice how you feel. If you're in child's pose, when you feel ready, coming up through downward facing dog. Take a few breaths there. And we'll do the other side. So lifting that left leg up to the sky, bringing it forward for our high lunge. Breathe in here. Could always take that little back bend. One more breath. Coming down, bringing the top of that knee down for our low lunge. Once again, choices here, options. Bringing the hands to frame the foot and just staying here, getting a little stretch. Maybe you want it a little bit more intense. Maybe bringing hands up to the knee. Or maybe you want to go for it, get that back bend in again. Arms up, looking towards the sky. Arching back. Feeling that stretch through the groins. Framing the front foot. We'll take that twist and that little quad stretch. So the right hand comes on the inside of the left foot. Once again, bring a block if you need to. Bring the earth up to you. Then bend that knee, bringing that right hand, or excuse me, this is our left hand, back to grab the right foot. Sinking the hips down, nice and even. You'll really feel it in your quad. Rolling the right shoulder back. And breathe. It's hard work holding these poses for this many breaths. So even though we're not doing anything that looks to be like we're running a marathon, it's still a lot of work and breathing. One more. Releasing the bind. Coming up into our lunge just for a second so we can get into warrior three. So up we go. Using that back foot to propel us forward. It's a balance. Whatever hand gesture you like. Sink that right hip down. Breathe. Bringing the right hand down for our revolved half moon. If you need a block, go ahead and grab one. Flexing the foot now. And the left hand reaches up. You can look to the earth for stability. If you look up to the sky, you might get a little bit more of a twist. And if you'd like, you can grab that foot. Another little quad stretch. And here we go. We're going to go for that half moon. So, letting go of the bind, bringing that left hand down, and now we rotate that right hip on top of the left. It's tough. You might need to stop, grab a block, or remove your block. Under the left hand, we're just unfurling everything. We just had ourselves all twisted up. And now we're opening it up. Try to stack that right hip on top of the left. Like there's a wall behind you. And your whole body is in contact with that wall. One more breath, then windmill that arm down. Take a vinyasa. Last one. You can do it. Downward facing dog or child's pose. Continue breathing. I hope you all come down for child's pose just for a few breaths. Our next stop will actually be using the wall. So once you are ready, you actually you will need your mat, but for the first pose you won't. So if you want to go ahead and move everything, you can. I'll just move my mat a little bit closer. All right, so when you're ready, we're going to take a standing camel at the wall. So in our standing camel pose, you'll want to keep your feet a little bit wider than hip distance apart or hip width distance apart. You'll see what works for you. And the knees can bend in this pose. And we're going to use the wall to help us get a little bit further, and it just also kind of plays with our fear factor, and you'll see what I mean when you get into it. It just may push you to your edge somewhere that you know, you're a little uncomfortable, but if you ever get too, you know, too freaked out, come out right away. And don't go too far, just play with it. So what we're gonna do is basically grab the wall, going backwards. See how my knees will start to bend, and just walk down the wall. Maybe you'll find a spot where you feel comfortable and just hang out. Maybe you'll keep going. When you find that place, breathe into it. Take your time. And then when it's complete for you, you come up, come into Tadasana, either staying here or take a forward fold. We'll do that again, but maybe two choices. You can either do it at the wall again and see if you can get a little bit further, or maybe you'll take a step out from the wall and just do a standing camel free form without the wall behind you. So you'll actually kind of grab onto the back of your legs like you're pulling up some high socks. Really high socks if you're maybe going just to your the back of your upper leg. All right, so whenever you're ready, going back. So keep those knees bent, creep those fingers down, or if you're at the wall, creep those hands down the wall. Breathing. Go to your edge. When it's complete for you, coming up, let's take a forward fold, maybe heel toeing those feet in and folding. Maybe just letting fingertips come to opposite elbow. Opening up the heart and those back bends may make you feel a little bit vulnerable. So come home in these forward folds a little bit more inward. Rolling up. All right, so like I said, we're at the wall. So this is inversion time. If you have a handstand or headstand in your practice, you know what to do. You could, and if you wanted to check out a handstand tutorial, you could look at my last video. If neither of those things are in your practice, you can always take Prasarita Palitanasana, a wide-legged forward fold. Toes will be pointing either inward or just sides of the feet are parallel with the mat. Hands on the hips and leading with the heart folding forward. And when you do this, you just let your head hang. If that's a little uncomfortable, you can bring a block and let your head touch that block to give yourself that stability. The whole point is just so that the head is below the heart. We're switching the flow of the lymph and the blood and all that good stuff. A lot of benefits for your body. You could also play with any other inversion at the wall. For example, I'm going to grab this strap and I'm going to play with my forearm stand. So for forearm stand, you don't absolutely need this, but I really like it for stability. Take the strap like a little lasso and you're going to put it around your upper arms like this, and it keeps everything nice and parallel. I don't know the best way to show this. Otherwise, a lot of times I find my hands going in and out and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So, I'll get into almost like a dolphin posture. So forearms on the ground, fingertips facing forward, lifting that seat up to the sky, working heels towards the floor, and then I'm just going to kick up. So you can stay here with your feet against the wall, or you can work on coming out. And then trying to use your core to come down nice and softly. So hopefully you've been playing with something You can pause the video if you want to workshop a little bit. I'm going to take my strap apart. Once you have done your inversion, do make sure that you take child's pose. You never want to come quickly out of an inversion. You can get pretty dizzy. You don't want to hurt yourself. So, when you are ready, we will come down to the mat in a kneeling position, and we're going to take our traditional camel. So like I said, we've been opening our heart. Maybe you're like, I don't even know what camel is, and now you're talking about a standing camel. Well, this is the traditional camel where we stand on our knees on the mat. And a really helpful hint with camel is you can take a block and stick it between your thighs and don't let it drop, because that reminds you to keep squeezing, keep pushing the pelvis forward. So I'm going to do that. Helps you not cheat. All right, so if this stuff is a little intense and you're not really liking it, you can take kind of a baby camel where you put your hands at your kidneys and you just kind of ease back, still pushing the pelvis forward, but just, it's a nice little back bend. If you want to go a little bit further, what you would do is you would grab those heels, maybe the arches of the feet. You can tuck the toes to bring the heels up a little bit further if you can't quite reach them. That can help you grab on. Or if you're extra flexible, maybe you're working towards the back of the lower leg. Lots of places to grab onto. So when you're ready, going for it. So grabbing on, pushing that pelvis forward, opening up. We're opening up the heart and the throat. Squeezing those thighs. Breathing, rolling shoulders open. One more breath. And using that core, or maybe use your hands to help you get up. And coming into little wisdom pose or child's pose, just to counter that. So maybe just draping those arms by the legs, letting the shoulders flop over the knees. Exhale through an open mouth. And when you are ready, slowly coming up. We'll go into our downward facing dog. I'm going to move my mat out just a little bit. Just to get into our next pose, which is pigeon. So in our pigeon pose, we're also going to be playing with a couple modifications. You might need that strap. It's going to be fun. We warmed ourselves up for this. So from our downward facing dog, we have two sides, so it doesn't really matter what side you do first. Reaching the leg up and coming through, but this time we're going to lay the leg down so the knee is facing the upper left hand or right hand corner of the mat. If you are extra bendy, this leg might be parallel with the front of the mat, but for most of us, it's going to be on a diagonal with the knee up here and the foot coming more towards your hips. Now, in pigeon, you may find that this leg is coming up off the mat. That's where a block can come in handy, or actually even better would be a blanket, a little bit more comfortable. So while we're here in our pigeon, we're going to stay upright a little bit, and then we'll come into sleeping pigeon, which really helps open up those hips. You can stay here with the hands on the mat or on your knee and your foot, just breathing, staying up, or since we warmed up those quads, maybe you want to work on a bind. So you could try the mermaid, where you bend this leg and then trying to get that foot in the crook of the elbow and then reaching to grab hands with yourself. Maybe easier said than done. That's where you might want to use a strap. Maybe letting the strap dangle in one hand so you can grab on, Maybe you want to put the strap on your foot. Lots of different ways to do this. If you are extra bendy and you really want to go for it, maybe you want to go for the full Ekapada Raja, I think it's Kapotasana, yes, Kapotasana, where you would grab the foot. Ooh. Keep breathing. Lots of modifications. Might not be quite warmed up enough for that one. Once you've played, we'll come down for a nice reward of Sleeping Pigeon, but take your time. We have tons of time now, right? But when you do come down, you might want to stack your fists or just lay one palm on top of the other so you have a place for your forehead to go. It's just nice and comfy. And then sink in. If there is someone available to check you, they can see if your hips are even. That way you'll get the most benefit from the pose. Just imagine that they are. Think about what that would feel like and maybe make some internal adjustments. And breathe. When it feels complete for you, and feel free to pause if you've just hit that sweet spot and you want to stay a little bit longer. But if you're like, wow, this is intense, maybe it's time to come out. So using your hands to come up and then lifting the hips up, and then let's heel toe that foot over. Nice safe way to exit, bringing the leg back and coming up into downward facing dog. That'll help stretch everything out, and then we can get ready for the other side too. Have to make everything even. So, reaching the opposite leg, coming forward. Find that perfect sweet spot for you. And always make adjustments. Staying here. Maybe you didn't like any of those binds and you just want to work on staying upright, and maybe, you're like, well, I'm comfortable here, what else can I do? You could reach those arms up, maybe take a mudra of your choice, and hang out here. Like I said, if you want, you could play with a bind. This side's a little bit tighter for me, which is totally normal. Keep breathing, whatever you do. Don't forget to breathe. Which can be a little bit difficult in these poses, right? So that means you just stay for a breath or two. Releasing whenever you're ready. And then sinking forward for the Sleeping Pigeon. Finding that perfect stance. Like I said, maybe you want to stack fists. Maybe you don't want to come down all the way. Once again, if you find that perfect sweet spot and you need a few more breaths, just pause and then rejoin. But whenever you're ready, coming up, heel toeing that foot over. And just taking one more downward facing dog just to stretch everything out. And then we're coming down to seated. So bring those legs forward. Taking Dandasana. So nice straight legs. Lots of right angles. Shoulders back and relaxed. Hands near the sides. Chin parallel. Still a very active pose. And then taking a forward fold, reaching the arms up overhead. Maybe you grab shins or the sides of the feet. Leading with the heart. For me, I can't get very far in this pose unless I've been practicing for a couple hours. We're doing a really intense practice. So I'm hanging out up here. On the inhale, coming up a little bit. On the exhale, letting yourself sink forward, not pushing, just letting the breath do its work. One more breath. And then coming up. We'll come onto our backs. You might want to grab a block. I'm going to take legs up the wall. If you are proficient in shoulder stand, you could go ahead and do that. For legs up the wall, you can literally go to a wall, or if you are mid-floor and you want to stay there, like I said, you can grab this block. You got to find that perfect spot for you. You might need to move it around a little bit. And then just let those legs float up. It should be effortless. So if it's not, that's when you need to make adjustments with the block. So just letting everything relax. I like to put my hands on my belly. It just feels nice for me. But you can put your hands in a T or in a little cactus. Or you can also reach the arms up to the ceiling and let the arms just kind of settle in that shoulder girdle. I don't know what to call it. And it finds that little spot. And then once again, it's effortless. They just kind of float. It's good to have a few poses where you're not really putting too much effort in. Have your practice as a whole be a balance of effort and ease. Sometimes it's good to just be. Have a little song from Book. And when it's complete for you, coming down, removing the block. You might feel the need for another back bend. If you're feeling really warm, you could go into a bridge or even a wheel. If that is not what you're feeling, if you've had enough, maybe just hugging the knees in, taking Asana, massaging the spine. And we'll just take one final pose, our reclining twist. So bringing the soles of the feet onto the mat, bump the buttocks to the left, knees over to the right, arms in a T or a cactus, and gazing towards the left. If that's too much for your neck, you know you can always look the opposite way. 2 more breaths. Last breath. Let the exhale come through an open mouth. And back through center, opposite way. Buttocks to the right, knees to the left, gaze to the right. Two more deep breaths. On your next exhale, let it come through an open mouth. Back through center. Take time for a little Shavasana. Letting the legs come all the way out, or maybe if your back's a little tricky, maybe keeping the soles of the feet on the mat and just knocking the knees together. Or you could take Supta Baddha Konasana, bringing the soles of the feet together and letting the knees go out wide. Lots of options, whatever feels good for you. Letting go of the breath, letting go of the effort. Hitting the save button on your practice. Letting your mat hold you. Wiggling fingers and toes. Coming out. Maybe a stretch or a hug. And rolling to the right side if that's comfortable. Taking a few big breaths before pressing a hand into the earth and coming on up to the seated position where we started. Maybe gently closing the eyes, maybe the eyes have been closed. Close with a little mantra and one final Om. Feel free to join in when I do that. Bringing hands to heart center. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta Sukhino bhavantu. Great inhale for Om. Om. May all beings everywhere be happy and free. Namaste.